Hi, I'm Tim, guitar player, teacher. When we first built our major scales, we put them on a line to help keep up with all of the accidentals used in each scale. This was then added to when we built our minor key signatures to show the relative nature between major and minor keys. Having all of this information in one place can be very helpful. However, this line is not the typical way that this information is organized. It is usually put onto a circle called the circle of fifths. There is very little difference in the actual information shown, but the cyclical nature of the keys is lost when only looking at the line. Also, virtually everywhere else this is used, it will be shown as a circle, so we need to make that adjustment. The circle of fifths starts, not too surprisingly, with a circle. We will start by focusing only on the major keys. At the top of the circle, we're going to put C major. It has no sharps or flats, so inside the circle we will put a 0. With the line that we've been using, we put the keys that use sharps to the right and the keys that use flats to the left. We'll do exactly the same thing here. Inside the circle, we'll put the number of sharps or flats going each direction. To keep them visually separated, the flat keys will be written in blue, while the sharp keys will be written in red, just like on the line. The big difference here is that our circle is only going to have 12 positions. This will cause the numbers to overlap at the bottom. The key that has 5 sharps will be in the same position as the key that has 7 flats. The key with 6 sharps will be in the same position as the one that has 6 flats. And the key that has 7 sharps will be in the same position as the one with 5 flats. Now, as we go through and add the names of the keys to the outside of the circle, a pattern emerges. The next key with an additional sharp starts on the 5th note of the previous key. So moving around the circle clockwise, we are moving in fifths. This is why it is called the circle of fifths. But this is not only true of the keys that use sharps. As we continue around the circle, the same holds true for the keys that use flats. As long as we are moving clockwise, we are moving to the perfect fifth of the previous key. As we discussed in the last video, the inversion of a perfect fifth is a perfect fourth. This means that if we go around the circle counterclockwise, we are moving in fourths. Sometimes this is called the circle of fourths for that reason, but not very often. As far as the sharps and flats that need to be added to each key, we'll write them as lists at the bottom of the page. Just remember they must be added in the order of these lists. So looking at the top of the circle again, we can see that in the key of C major, F to the left is the perfect fourth, and G to the right is the perfect fifth. If we look at the key of G, you can see that C to the left is the perfect fourth, and D to the right is the perfect fifth. This is true at every position on the circle. In harmonic composition, fourths and fifths are very common, so this ends up being really useful. Looking back at the bottom of the circle where we had those overlapping keys, the key that has 5 sharps is B major. B, C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, and B. The key that has 7 flats is C flat major. C flat, D flat, E flat, F flat, G flat, A flat, B flat, and C flat. If we look at the notes of each of those scales, you'll notice that they are in fact the same notes, just respelled inharmonically. The same is true of F sharp and G flat, and C sharp and D flat. That's why they overlap. They are essentially the same scales. The only significant difference lies in how we refer to each of them. If I'm looking for the 4th and the 5th of F sharp, for example, I can't call them C flat and D flat. I must adhere to the position of the letters within the F sharp scale, so they would have to be B and C sharp. When we add the minor keys to the circle, all of the same relationships show up. A 5th to the right, a 4th to the left, as long as we are sticking with the minor keys. Now, like I said earlier, this is a much more common way for this information to be shown, so I wanted to make that change to what we are looking at going forward. I still think the line is very useful, and for many students it's easier to look at and understand. Its only real shortcoming is that it doesn't show the enharmonic keys and how they are linked together by following the fifths or fourths going around the circle. So use whichever one you find more helpful. The most important part is that we can quickly and accurately get the notes of any major or minor key signature. I'll add a link in the description to a file you can download with the circle of fifths if you'd like to print out a copy of it. Up to this point, we've built major scales and the three main minor scales and discussed the intervals found within them. But these are not all of the scales we need to cover. I quickly mentioned them in the natural minor scale video without much explanation, but they are called modes, and that is what our next video will cover. Until then, thanks for taking the time to watch. Let me know in the comments if you find this video helpful and subscribe if you want to see more of this series. As always, I really appreciate your time. Take care.